We either do it by foot, bicycle, vehicle, or just walking. And what we do is we basically maintain the safety of our parks. If we see something that's unusual or something that's weird, we'll see and figure out what's going on. But our main goal is for our patrons, everyone to feel safe in our parks, welcome, and just have a good time.
It's one of the things that I don't know if you guys are aware. If you guys ever, by any time you are walking or enjoying the facilities, if this is something that's strange, feel free to go to the THPRD website and you can submit a watch report. And also, we have a number that you guys can contact if you feel like something feels strange and say, you can be like, I don't know, what should I do? We have a number you can call us. And unfortunately, or fortunately now, we only are available from 9 a.m. all the way to 10:30 p.m. Monday to Monday, I guess, every single day. And we have some, magnets that if you guys want to get our number, we can pass those around.
What's that number?
I can give you some magnets, but the number will be 971-246-0169.
Can you guys talk about the park hours and the trail hours really quick?
Yeah, so I guess for me it's a little confusing because the parks and trails, as far as dog parks and other facilities, are actually open from dawn to dusk.
Mm-hmm.
So once it gets dark, nobody should be allowed, and trails pretty much make sure the dogs are on a leash and no smoking, no vaping. A lot of people get confused, like, well, vaping is not smoking, but sort of falls in the same place. There are places where the dogs are not allowed because of natural protected areas. If you guys have any other questions that I can cover, feel free to ask me.
One of the things that has come up is bicyclists sharing the trail with walkers. Is there any possibility you could come up with some sort of sign that says, if you're going to visit, could you step to the side? Because the bicyclists have come around, I hear walkers saying, those bicyclists are so fast, but they're coming around a corner and all of a sudden there's people standing there and it's a near accident. So I really would encourage some safety signs, especially on corners, to encourage people to step off the path.
Okay.
Pedestrians are the worst, sorry, but we are.
One of the things I can say, I unfortunately don't have anything to say about it, but one of the things that I can say, I can provide you guys my supervisor's email or number, you guys can discuss that. At this point, I don't have anything really clear to say. What can we do or not?
If you guys basically submit more report, or you guys want to elaborate more on that, like he said, contact our supervisor, Mike Janin. He will forward your messages to people that deal with the trails, and maybe in the future they can put. I know that our main facility on 158th and Walker has lines on it, like here on traffic. So maybe that's something that they could do maybe in the future. So if you guys can get a hold of our supervisor and make your comments heard, maybe that could happen.
We had that on Creed, we had the yellow one.
Mm-hmm.
I have a parks question. So when I lived on the east side of Portland, one of the things that we had an issue with was needles on playgrounds and in parks. And thankfully, I have not had that happen since I've moved over here. But I'm curious, are you seeing that in the parks in our district, and how do you handle it? How often are you seeing it?
Well, I believe we're pretty good at what we do, and lately we haven't really encountered anything like that. I think we hit every part of our parks real well. We maintain our trails really clean, safe, and lately we just haven't dealt with any of that kind of stuff.
Awesome. That's great news.
Was that dog at large? Is that what you said? There were dogs at large?
Oh, needles.
Needles.
Oh.
Yes, needles. Yeah.
Sorry.
On playgrounds and in parks and.
Yeah.
And if we were to encounter a situation like that where we do find needles, or we take proper measures in cleaning up, and if we keep seeing repeating occurrences, we'll hit it. We'll keep coming back, hit it harder, to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that they've been extremely proactive.
Oh, yeah.
It's been extremely proactive. So anytime we find a homeless community or something out where we're likely to find those types of things, they post it, come in and clean it up, and it's taken care of right away and those types of things. So I have not heard of incidences where they're on or near the trail or on the playgrounds. I do know of incidences where they were out in the brush or in the trees off the main beaten path where most people wouldn't go. But once those are reported, so again, if you see those, get a hold of the park district and let them know they're there, and they have been so good about getting out there and cleaning up. And it's one of my newfound responsibilities is homeless outreach, so I'm kind of getting up to speed, but I've learned about what THPRD is doing, and we're trying to use that as a model.
Regarding the discussion about bicycles and pedestrians on the same pathway and curves in the road, it's my sense, I'm just thinking back, are bicycles using bells these days? Sometimes,
but not very often.
Yeah,
That's my point.
Yeah,
I
say very
wonder if they're not, maybe the pedestrians should start using bells. Bullhorns.
Bullhorns.
I don't know if you have some formal agenda for this, but I wonder if you want to comment on the situation around the bottle drop opposite Jesuit High School.
I would be happy to comment. I don't have a lot of information. It was Beaverton Police that handled that situation. I know our major crimes team is investigating that.
That was the shooting.
Yeah.
But it seems there's an ongoing problem
With the bottle drop?
with the bottle drop.
Yeah,
Or at least with attracting problems that weren't there on that instance before.
You know that's City of Beaverton though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
there's
they-
intersects, it's very interesting, I looked at the maps.
It's right on the edge.
But they have jurisdiction because
Yeah.
we had a meeting regarding that. That's the only reason I know that for sure.
But then they didn't go through land use planning in Beaverton, did they?
Well, now, I'd like to ask the question that in June, maybe, we had a lawyer here who was representing, I think, a bit of pro bono work for the 4 houses that are being disrupted.
There are 4 parties
Did
that
they,
are
did
part
they
of it.
come to a decision about whether this was being moved out of the business, out of one kind of classification into another, so that they would not be allowed to pack and shift all the stuff that they received?
See, unincorporated Washington County borders that property. That's the only reason we were involved in it at all. But I do know that there was an appeal. I don't know the outcome though. We would have to ask City of Beaverton.
We're neighbors, we actually live right next to the bottle drop and we lost that appeal, so they're saying.
They're now commercial now, are they?
It's already zoned commercial. That was the problem, was everything along Beaverton Hillsdale Highway is zoned commercial. So it was just boom, they moved right in.
But in those zoning regulations, I thought the storage
That's right.
was not
There was a
legal under the zoning.
situation which they did not actually fit, and that was the court case.
Well, then you call City of Beaverton. Any problems you have with it, especially as you live next to it, get their non-emergency number. Is that the same as as ours?
Did you go through their neighborhood mediation program, or was it an attorney representing filing a
Yeah, I mean,
formal
it's
appeal on?
basically the attorney for that hospital and then Jesuit, and then they kind of group the neighborhoods together, or the neighbors.
Okay.
Or the groups.
And I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face about criminal law and some civil law, but not zoning law. I just don't know.
But zoning aside, it seems like there are some issues, because it's right on the edge of Washington County, that if there are drug users and all sort of crime tends to go on around drug use, because that property is right on the edge of Washington County, does that fall into your jurisdiction?
The bottle drop itself falls within Beaverton, so if there were problems that were occurring in the neighborhoods behind, then yes, we would respond.
And have you seen an uptick?
I have not personally seen an uptick, and I don't see an uptick in the call volume. It's still fairly relatively new, didn't it go in last summer?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not, historical data isn't gonna help us here, so moving forward, it's something that we can keep our eyes on. But again, it's gonna be if the property itself is generating a complaint, it depends on what the caller says and what address they give. So they could give the bottle drop and Beaverton's going to show up, and then if they meander into the neighborhood, it's gonna be a problem for the neighborhood, but it's still gonna report as that Beaverton address. So what I'll do is I'll take a look at that, and I'll actually talk to my counterpart at Beaverton and see what he can tell me. But that became I was invited to a a meeting to go on that bottle drop, and I was unable to attend, but, so I know it's been on their radar for a while, but I didn't realize you'd lost the appeal. I'm sorry about that.
And the other thing I was curious about was previously when all these bottles and cans were being processed at supermarkets elsewhere, which were in Washington County, were there problems? Was there a high rate of crime around those locations?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that it was frustrating for me when I lived in the city of Beaverton, because I would try and take my cans to the Fred Meyers, and I could never. But that's just frustration. So I never saw, me personally, Tim, the citizen at the time of Washington County, the city of Beaverton, I never felt unsafe there. At the Fred Meyers, where a lot of the people, I think, it's the same, not maybe the same people, but it's the same people that are returning bottles and cans to supplement their incomes to try and make a living. I'm assuming that's what they're doing. I'm assuming a lot of them are homeless. I'm sure some of them have drug addiction. And they're funding, that's how they're making money. So the majority of the time that I've spent at those, I've never personally, in the citizen, felt uncomfortable. I'd like to wait, but.
I think there's one important difference. I don't think Meyer ever gave money for the cans. They gave coupons for store purchases.
No, they used to give.
Did they give
Yeah,
that?
they were required by law to.
Did you come to the meeting when they presented to us several months ago? Because that was one of the questions was cleanliness and why a bottle drop. And quite honestly, it seemed that all of the Fred Meyer and all the people that were taking them in just wanted the filth gone because they're selling food and things. So they just didn't want it within the same. So they asked for it pretty much. I mean, they were all the way behind it. And there are still a few that don't use them, but that's their choice.
So I would just like to point out that, so what I actually came here to kind of give an update on the Fano Creek Trail. It was a sexual assault that occurred on the trail over the summer. So I really wanted to give an update and reassure the public that we don't believe that there is any public threat at this point in time. We don't really believe that there ever was, that this was an incident that occurred out of opportunity and circumstance, but it's still a very safe trail. And my lead into that is, if we live in a community where these are the irritants, traffic and concerns at the bottle drop. Now obviously the bottle drop incident the other day was pretty serious, and that was an alarming thing in the community. But we don't have this happen very much. And so my point is that we're not living in an area. Has anybody lived in an area where every day you see something that happened in your community and you're like, oh, not again?
Dallas, Texas.
Washington, D.C.
So the positive thing is that we don't live, that's not this community. This community, when we see something in the paper, like, oh, wow, that's out of the ordinary.
Yes.
And this assault on Fano Creek Trail was really out of the ordinary. I had a briefing from the detective who's the lead detective on that case the other day, and there's a lot of information that I can't give you because it would jeopardize the case. But the thing I really want to reinforce is that regardless of how safe an environment or a neighborhood is, it's always important to look out and have that safety conscious mindset. And there is absolutely, in our estimation, from what we know, there's absolutely no public threat at this point in time. And I know there was some frustration that the information didn't get out in a timely manner. But what I want to assure you is, had we believed that there was an imminent threat, we would have put that information out right away. Even based on the circumstance, there wasn't a lot that we didn't know at the time, and a lot of pieces we were trying to put together based on it was a different set of circumstances. This was not a normal, something happened and we know what happened, or likely what happened, and we know who and where. We really didn't even know where for a period of time. So, but what we did know really early on is that we didn't believe that there was an imminent threat to the public, and that's why we weren't so concerned about getting the information out as quick as possible. I know that there were some rumblings on Nextdoor about that, and completely understand. I think we need to do a better job of recognizing that even in a situation where we don't think that there's an imminent threat, maybe we should just say that right away instead of not saying anything at all. Because when we don't say anything, obviously that's where people start wondering and asking questions. So we could have done a much better job, and we've learned from that situation. The other thing I want to make sure people understand is that Pelican incident where the woman was arrested on Fennel Creek Trail, that was not an incident on the trail itself. That stemmed from an apartment complex that was near the trail, and she ran off and was captured on the trail. So I know the news report, the media was saying that it was another incident on Fennel Creek Trail, but that just wasn't the case. And it was a pellet gun. She was an again, a bizarre case.
Very bizarre.
She was playing a game or pranking. So her excuse was, I was pranking these people who didn't know her at all. So of course they thought it was a real gun. So it was unfortunate timing, and then the reporting wasn't as accurate as I would hope it would have been. But those are the only two incidences that have happened this summer that were of significant alarm, and one of them didn't even happen on the.
Yeah.
Mark, do you have anything? This is Sergeant Mark Trost. Mark Trost works for me. He's only works for the sheriff. But he is the supervisor of this area, the 3 area, what we call the 3 area. Our east operations consists of the W3 area and the W31, which is up by where Nike is. I have oversight of that. Mark is the sergeant. I like to think of, he's the police chief of the 3 because he is deeply involved in what goes on. He has deputies that come out every day and work the streets and try and take care of these problems when they're called in. And so he's my eyes and ears of what goes on every day on the street, as well as Lee is.
And Mark, he's personally walked this section of the trail, so he's been out there. He's aware of what's going on out there, and he's actually talked to a lot of, maybe some of you, but a lot of folks when he's gone through there too.
Yeah, again, Mark Trost. I've been here going on 18 years. So regarding the bottle drop, I honestly haven't seen any incidents within that area. Even though it's City of Beaverton, I do drive through there and whatnot, so I am aware of what's going on, and I haven't seen many incidents about it. I changed my radio and my pack set to the Beaverton channel, so I hear what's going on there, so I get an idea. And to be honest, like Lieutenant was saying, it has an appearance of a lot of bad things, but I don't see any merit to it. I haven't seen any bad things going on. In regards to the traffic crashes and whatnot on we call it KK corners with BHH and Olson and Shoals, it's just this nexus of all these roads coming in. It's really poor civil engineering, but again with distracted driving, you can really come up with a lot of different issues of crashes. So I think that's one of the things that can be worked on, and the best way to do it is not be as distracted. I don't think they're going to be able to change the roads anytime soon there.
It's impatience though too. You can say distracted, but you sit there way too long and people they'll just go.
Yeah.
And that's why people get hit too. I mean, it's...
So there's a number of factors in that, we have totally outpaced our highway system. We just have. There's more cars on the road than the major highways can handle, and you're right, maybe it is impatience where people go, I don't want to get stuck on 26 going over the hill. The news report just said it's 30 minutes, so I'm going to try and find an alternate way. And so they come down Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, or they jump off 217 and come down Olson. So it really is, I've got a lot of family on the East Coast, and my uncle who kind of really taught me to drive in the streets of Manhattan he said, you know what, I don't care if I'm stuck in traffic and not moving, I don't like that. So I'm going to find an alternate way, and at least if I'm moving, I feel like I'm beating traffic. And I think that's a common feeling, that at least if I'm just moving, even though it's taking twice as long to get there, and that's what happens is people bail off the highways. People, when there's road construction, instead of planning an alternate route, I'm going to drive through this neighborhood street, and then we have concerns about people going too fast or overloading the traffic. So this is not a unique problem to Washington County. Multnomah County's been dealing with this for years. It's something that we're going to have to fix. Our transportation plan, I'm intimately involved right now with a legislative task force and the chair of an autonomous vehicle task force. And we're really looking at things like autonomous vehicles to map transportation planning in the next 20 and 30 years.
Autonomous,
So
do you
basically
wonder what that means too?
Basically self-driving cars. So,
Oh,
I'm hijacking the conversation a little bit, but just in a nutshell, right now, the cars that you and I drive, well, the car I drive is probably like a level 1. It has like windshield wipers that sense rain automatically. But the more things your car does to warn you about things, the higher level of automation it's said to have. Most of the cars we're driving right now are level 2 automation, even the Teslas that have an autopilot button on there where you can theoretically take your, well, you're not supposed to take your hands off, but people do. That is a level 2 autonomous vehicle. So what we're talking about when we talk about autonomous vehicles are level 4 and level 5. And level 5 would be completely self-driving. There would not be an operator in that vehicle. It would be completely either remotely operated or operated by a computer. Places, ride sharing like Uber, Lyft, and other tech companies are really pushing hard for this technology because they think, number one, that computers are going to be better drivers than humans. And it's hard to argue when 98% of all crashes are human caused. They're not environmental factors and they're not vehicle factors. They're because somebody decides that I'm going to run the red light or I'm going to look at my phone. 98% of all crashes are because of us. So it's hard to say computers aren't going to be able to do better than that. But that's the transportation plan, looking at alternate modes of transportation, looking at mass transit, looking and trying to get less cars on the road because I don't know that we're going to be able to build our way out of this. And I really like driving my car. I really like the independence it gives me, so I have really mixed feelings about all this. But my whole point to this is not a quick, let's redesign this intersection. Because as soon as you redesign this intersection, it's going to be overloaded because everybody's going to go, hey, if you just redesign this intersection, I'm going to go this way to work. So it's a much more complex problem than that. I remember when I was growing up, 217 was a surface street with traffic lights on it. Anybody remember that? Mm-hmm. It was not designed to be a major thoroughfare from 26 to I-5. It just wasn't. And because it was elevated in some areas, you just can't expand it. So it's a really complicated issue. This traffic itself is a huge complicated issue. But you know what? For me, I'm really glad that that's the biggest issue that we have to talk about most of the time, because as annoying as it is, we're really lucky to be in a community where we're not dealing with murders every day and rapes every day and you're hearing gunshots every night and going, I'm not even calling police anymore, because there are neighborhoods like that, a lot of them. So I'm sorry.
I have a question. As you think about transportation planning, this is kind of a stretch, and I don't know if they would give us the data, but are we, as citizens or at the state level, able to tap into data for an app like Waze that's redirecting people? Because that would be so interesting. That will show us where people are going instead to understand the system's implications.
So that's what the traffic planners really want. Exactly what you're talking about.
Us, right?
It's not, so there's a lot, yes, they're not going to give it to you without a need to know, because it's great to know where people are going, but it also identifies who those people are. And so it's the privacy piece of that data.
So they would have to figure out how to decouple.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the proprietary issues too, where manufacturers, especially with autonomous vehicles, don't want to give information because, this is my secret, this is how our software works. So their data sharing it was probably the biggest topic that everybody butted heads on, mostly because of the privacy issues, but also because the manufacturers and app makers really hold that information tight. Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly what traffic engineers are looking to do, especially with ride sharing, is where are these cars going, where are the rides originating, where are they ending, because there's concepts like first and last mile from public transportation and getting autonomous vehicles to provide that last mile of transportation. So there's a lot of really high level, I think probably what people hear most about is, the tolling. Because that, again, I have to be careful what I say. But that's kind of like the hot button. But there's so much more than just the tolling that people are talking about, and the data sharing is a big piece of that.
Speaking of these navigation systems, I see a lot of people trying to turn from Southwest Canyon Drive, make sort of a left or a right turn onto Canyon Road. So, if you're coming up the hill on Canyon, you go past the Lexus dealership, there's that little street, Canyon Drive comes at you, and I see more and more people there trying to cross over traffic and then go on down the hill. And I think they're being directed that way by Waze and things like that.
It's been going on for years.
Yeah, Google Maps, like,
Yeah.
so I live in that neighborhood, and I never take that way, 'cause it's the worst way.
Incredibly
And I have to
dangerous.
tell everyone who's coming to my neighborhood not to use Google, because it does tell you, so it's just by default.
Yeah, but I don't know if US or if ODOT has a little more input or pull with Google Maps or.
No, so I mean, there's voluntary apps, so there's nobody, you don't have to use them, and so ODOT can't regulate them. And I think what Google and Waze would tell you as well, we just, based on our programming, we're gonna give you the best way we think possible. It's your responsibility as a driver to follow the traffic control devices and signs, but as we know from just driving every day, that's not gonna happen. I really like to go back to the THPRD and just kind of let them know what they did, because they did a fantastic job. When this first incident came out, even though we could have done a better job of getting the information out to the public, the very first thing that they did was go out and increase park patrols on that park, and immediately increase park patrols. So it wasn't, we should have said that. I mean, we should have done better.
It's
and I
not too
apologize.
late.
Yeah, tell people.
Are they in plain clothes or are they in their uniforms? You're always in
Yeah, and
uniform?
we always drive marked vehicles, says THPRD Park Patrol.
Mhm.
How many are there?
That's what I was
There's
wondering.
7 of us.
So 7 vehicles, 7
There's
vehicles?
2 vehicles that we have.
For all of Washington County parks
Yeah, we,
and trails?
mhm,
12 Hills Park and Rec.
There are about 260 parks that THPRD owns, so we try to do our best,
We own them,
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
just to remind you.
Yeah.
So also for you guys to know, unfortunately sometimes there's only one vehicle at night or during the day. So even though there are 7 of us, there's sometimes just one person or one vehicle out. So it's hard sometimes. You guys sometimes give us a call and it's like, well, where are they? Sometimes we're taking care of different situations and depending on how they are, so it takes time.
So if we wanted to increase funding for positions like yours, would we contact the Parks and Rec Board or our county commissioner?
That will be definitely the Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec Board?
What was the question again?
If we wanted to lobby for like more of them.
More park
that
patrol.
means
Oh.
we need to pay more people, so, like I was asking, who would we lobby for that?
I would encourage you to call Mike Janin and talk to him.
Yeah.
He
12
is,
Hills Park and Rec.
Mike used to work for the Beaverton Police Department. He's very knowledgeable, and he's been a great partner for us.
He was gonna be here tonight, but he had a conflict, so he is definitely the authority to go to for those
And there's been
issues.
talk too about,
No.
there's been talk about adding additional people in this coming year, but we've already had multiple people call in about asking, for more resources for us, because they believe that, we should be out there patrolling more parks, and more people should be out there, helping you guys and making sure that our parks are safe. Yeah, it's tough, moving around when there's 1 or 2, but we do our best that we can, and if you guys can make your voices heard, maybe we can have more staff on our team.
Well, we have such a wonderful, having come from other areas, oh my gosh, people here, who lived here, don't have a clue how wonderful what we have here in terms of parks and trails. I mean, it's just awesome. And because we're doing so well, let's get at it at the front end
Sure.
rather than wait until something else happens and then, so maybe that's what we need to do if we care about that, is go ahead and contact.
And one of the things that you guys, it would be really appreciated if you guys can use some emails, so that way, if you guys email my supervisor, he can email his supervisor, and things can be seen more like, okay, this is real, it's not like, somebody called me, okay, I don't believe that, physical evidence will make it more easier, so.
Pertaining to the park, I don't think there's anyone from Fish and Wildlife